Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL Pod, your podcast to cruise a little smarter. I'm your host, Lake, and I am currently flying solo, but that doesn't mean that Christy may not pop up into this episode, because I might have told her the wrong time for the show, and that was my fault. But we're going to jump right in because we have a topic that we have not discussed in a long time, and I think it's going to make for a really interesting show. To have that discussion, we're going to welcome back a guest who was on very early in the show, back with Steve. Let's go ahead and welcome our guest, Coby, to the show. Coby, how are you today?
I am doing great, Lake. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. I am excited to get into this. Why don't we go ahead and start with what cruise you booked and who sailed with you?
Okay, yeah. So we're fresh off the boat here. Don't know exactly when this is going to air, but we booked a 5-night Bahamian cruise on the Disney Dream from April 27th through May 2nd, and we're here recording on May 3rd, so still rocking a little bit, and I was very upset that no one put a chocolate on my pillow last night. Yeah, so who was sailing with us? This was a big cruise, something that we'd been planning for a long time with my entire side of the family. So there were 29 of us total. My family of 6, my brother's family of 6, my other brother's family of 6, another brother's family of 4, and my sister's family of 6, plus my mom. So quite a few of us all together. Logistically, quite difficult to get us all together, but it was awesome.
Well, why don't we go ahead and just talk about the planning of this a little bit. First off, how many staterooms did you have to book?
So we booked 8 staterooms. There were 3 rooms of 3 of us and 5 rooms of 4. So we tried to pack as many people as we possibly could into those staterooms. We had a couple of staterooms that were just teenage boys, which luckily was, those weren't the staterooms that I had to spend the night in. But we put them in a couple of interior connecting staterooms so they could just come and go as they please. And they absolutely did. And then each of the couples had their own stateroom with 1 or 2 of their kids, and then we put my mom in with some of the older teenage girls to share a room with her. So, yeah, 8 total. Most of us were on the same deck. We put my mom up a little higher in a veranda room, but the rest of us were just on deck 2.
Whatever gets you on the ship, right?
Exactly. I don't care where our room is. It's just a few more stairs here and there.
Well, how did you go about navigating, like planning and booking for this many people?
So this will be my wife and my 13th sailing on Disney. So we've been sailing with Disney since 2010, when our oldest was 5 years old. So we've done quite a few Disney cruises, and last year I decided, hey, I love planning these things, so I'm going to go and just start a part-time gig and be a travel advisor. And so I did that. Started working with a company and got all certified and everything, and got my CLIA card. And so I started planning this cruise as well as a bunch of others for other friends and family. This was a gift from my mother for her grandchildren for Christmas. And so we were trying to find a time that worked for everyone, that was also relatively inexpensive. I know that's a loose term with Disney Cruise Line. Relatively inexpensive is tough. But we found a time that would work for us, found a good deal on this 5-night cruise. We did a couple of guaranteed staterooms, and luckily enough, we all ended up right next to each other on the same deck, on the same side. Disney's pretty good about putting families together. So yeah, I did all the planning myself. Worked with Disney directly, made sure that all the staterooms were connected so we could pick and choose our children to charge to specific accounts, and make sure that we were all close by, and we all had dining reservations next to each other, and so we could all be together as much as possible.
Were you able to successfully book anything else in advance for that whole group?
So it was kind of piecemeal what we had to do it, because we all have different Castaway Club statuses. So I was able to get us a Apollo reservation And I booked myself and my wife in separate staterooms because of minors in the stateroom. And so I got us both Palo reservations. And once we got on the ship, we were able to combine those into a large Palo dinner reservation as well as a Palo brunch reservation. We did get the Royal Gathering booked. We got a few things booked as well. We had a couple of reservations that we ended up not using and canceling before the ship. And then we booked the Goofy Sports Simulator pre-cruise as well. So we got quite a few things together. Because of the itinerary, we didn't really think we were going to do any like group excursions, so we weren't super worried about that. We were just going to spend some time together in Nassau. We were going to spend some time together in Castaway on the beach and doing our own things. So we're super worried about the excursions, but Palo was the one that we were most excited about getting some of the adults together for an evening at Palo.
And would you, before we jump on the ship here, just break down the group a little more? Like, how many adults was it? And then what was the age ranges for the children?
Yeah, 13 adults because 2 of the children were 20. So I guess 11 parents, 10 in with my siblings and their spouses plus my mom. And then we had 2 adult children. And then most of them were teenagers. Most of the rest were in between 12 and 18. I think there was like 10, 11, 12 of them. And then we had 3 or 4 that were Oceaneers Club age that were in the 10-year-old and 8-year-old range. And then we had one little caboose that is a 3-year-old that was able to go to the Oceaneers Club as well.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Well, let's go ahead and get you on board Dream out of Fort Lauderdale. How did your family meet up there and plan to embark on this cruise?
Yeah, so we all actually kind of made our own travel plans getting there. I took my family out a few days early. We left the Thursday night before the Monday embarkation, took a red eye out and spent the weekend in the Florida Keys. We'd never been down there before, so we went down, did an airboat tour in the Everglades, went down to Marathon Key for a couple of days, did some snorkeling out there, took an excursion out to the reef out in the Keys, and it was awesome. We had some really cool experiences out there. But then we drove up on Saturday night to a hotel near the airport, just to Spring Hill Suites there, where that was kind of our meeting location. And then groups of the family started to arrive as early as Sunday morning. Some of them took the red eye on Saturday night. 2 families plus my mom came in Sunday evening, and then the last family showed up on Monday morning early. They took the red eye in on that day. So our home base for those couple of days was just the Spring Hill Suites by the Fort Lauderdale Airport. Plenty of stuff within walking distance for food, and we could go to the beach and just hang out at the pool and just get a little relaxation in and get over the jet lag for those that came in on those early morning flights.
Awesome. Well, how did your family get to the port for embarkation day then?
We were looking at doing like a minibus to get us all there, but we just found it was going to be really easy just to schedule Ubers. We just scheduled a bunch of Uber XLs. They all showed up about the same time. We had port arrival times that varied by status, anywhere from like 11 o'clock to noon. And then one family who'd never been on the ship before, their port arrival time was a little bit later, but they came with us anyway. So we all left the hotel around 11, got to the port around 11:15, 11:20, so it was not too far away. Real simple to get there on an Uber, and just walked through the line, breezed through security, and by the time we got through security, it was just about time for our boarding group to be called. So we didn't wait around much at all.
Well, then, what was it like boarding the Dream with such a large group then? Or I guess, did you board individually then?
So there were 25 of us that were able to get on at the same time. And we all, we don't usually do this, but we did get matching shirts for the family. That was kind of a thank you to my mom for sending us on this cruise. So we all had these matching black pirate shirts that we came on, and we all did embark together. So there was quite a few of us in the grand hall there, or the atrium, I guess. on the Disney Dream. And so it was really fun. Like we've had that experience multiple times where we've been able to announce our family, and then some of my siblings have gone on there with us a couple of times as well. But having the whole family there together was a pretty cool experience, being all there in the atrium together.
So your family all gets on board. Does everyone kind of break away and do their own thing, or were you all like a big family pack for this day? What was
Well,
that day like?
we tried to stay together as much as we could. It's very difficult with a group that size logistically to get anything together. So we actually headed straight up to Cabanas, and surprisingly, it was about noon at that time, and it wasn't that crowded. We were able to get a bunch of tables together. So we did spend some time in Cabanas, and were able to have lunch as a big group there together. And then the kids just were excited. They just wanted to go explore. Some of them had their swimsuits on, so they wanted to go in the pool and jump on the aqueduct. And we said, all right, that's fine. Just go have fun. Our rooms are here. We'll meet you at our rooms when they're available at 1:30. And so we waited for my last brother and his family to jump on, met them in Cabanas, and just hung out and talked with them as a group, and then jumped down to our rooms and unloaded our bags that we had carried on with us, and made some plans for meeting up later in the evening.
Once you got into the cruise, did you guys like pre-plan a method for communicating between all of the cabins and families?
Yeah, it would have been much easier if everyone had iPhones, but not everyone did have iPhones. There were a few Android users, and so we kind of had two group messages going. So we had a WhatsApp group as well as an iPhone group. So we were trying kind of using dual channels to communicate with everyone, saying, "Hey, there's a bunch of us going to this at this time. We'd love for anyone to join us." But what we had ended up doing was we decided to have a central meeting point throughout the day where we would be kind of a home base or a home camp where people could relax and they could find us and find others and go on adventures with those around. So we made our home base deck 12 over by the Funnel Vision, and we just kind of camped there every single day. We had half a dozen chairs or so, and sometimes there were more or less that we needed that we could just pull in. And so everyone knew that's where we were if they were looking for someone.
Awesome. Well, moving it back to your embarkation day, what else did you get up to?
So yeah, embarkation's great. I don't feel like I'm ever on vacation until I've unpacked. Luckily, our suitcases got there really quick. We were able to unpack, and as soon as we unpacked, it was just about time for the muster drill. But right before the muster drill, I called room service and got us a little room service, as well as our platinum castaway gift. I got us some Cloud and Blue just to have a little toast. So right after the muster drill, I brought my immediate family back to our room. We had a little toast with the Cloud and Blue, and just it's kind of a tradition of ours to toast for having a fun cruise. And then we went up to the sail away party, and always busy, but the kids enjoyed that. They actually enjoyed after the sail away party when it became more of like a dance party. That's when the crowds started to thin a little bit, and they could just have a little bit more fun, and just everyone was dancing together and having a good time. Since we were all in the t-shirts, we went up on deck 12 by the funnel and took some family pictures. So we knew that we wouldn't have too many opportunities for all of us to be together at the same time, where everyone would be willing to take those family pictures. And so that's the opportunity we took and did that evening. And then met for dinner. Our first night was in Royal Palace, where we met our serving team. And bless their hearts, to see a group of 29 people come in, they must have just had a panic attack. But they were great. We sat in different seats every single night, but they still remembered what kind of drinks we liked. They'd have to chase us down and find out where we were sitting, but they were so amazing to be able to accommodate us that way. They pushed all, I think we had like 5 or 6 different tables that they'd pushed together for us. Some restaurants we had like a table of 4 or 5 that one family or the teenage group would go sit in one night. But most evenings it would just be 2 long tables of 12 or 13, 14 people that we'd all just sit together on one long table, and they'd try and serve us as quickly as they could. So bless their hearts, they did a great job.
How many servers did you have between that group?
So the first night, it was the majority of the group was with one serving team, and there was, I think, one table on a secondary serving team, and which was fine. It was a great serving team because I was with that team the first night. But I mentioned to the head waiter, I was like, it'd be great if we could all have the same serving team as we're kind of mixing around, and we'll be in different seats every single night. He's like, oh yeah, we're happy to accommodate that. So the second through fifth night, we just had the one serving team. So just the server and the assistant server, and then the head server came and helped out quite a bit as well.
That's pretty impressive for that serving
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, why don't we go ahead and let's just stick with dining while we're on the topic. We don't necessarily need to go through every night, but talk through kind of like highlight restaurant and some highlight meals from your dining experience.
We've been on the Dream several times, so we kind of know what to expect and what to order at every single restaurant. The embarkation meal for a 5-night cruise was not my favorite menu. It's very, very forgettable. We always enjoy Animator's Palette. The black truffle prosciuttos are always a hit across the board. There's always something in each of the restaurants that we really enjoy and that the kids really enjoy. And so it's hard to nail down oh, this was our favorite restaurant, because there's great dishes in all the restaurants, and there's misses in all the restaurants. But obviously the biggest hit for us was the adult dining at Paulo. And we could talk about that a little later if you want, but that was an amazing experience at Paulo. But as far as main rotational dining, I think everyone loved the Royal Court the most. I think they enjoyed that menu the most. If you ask my children which one they enjoyed the most, they would say Pirate Night, because their parents weren't there to harass them, and they could just do whatever they wanted. That's usually my least favorite menu. But I think all around, everyone enjoyed their dining experience every single night. There were things that they loved. There were things that there was just kind of okay, but the serving team was always great and willing to bring out whatever they wanted. If there was a dish that didn't hit, they were willing to come out and bring something new to the table. Standard rotational dining, but it was I think the serving team was on point, and the dining team was on point for the majority of the cruise.
Before we leave main dining, was there any debate on early versus late dining?
There was a great deal of debate on early versus late dining. So we have always been in the camp, my family and I have always been in the camp of late dining, because what we love to spend as much time as possible on deck. And we feel like we don't need to get ready and dressed up to go to the theater shows at night. We can typically just go in our swimsuits, and then right after the shows, we'll go up to the Aqueduct or the Aquadunk and enjoy the time on deck while some of us go and get ready. So this was actually our first time ever in 13 cruises doing early dining. So it was kind of a change for me eating that early. It was requested from some of the families with younger children that we do that. And it was okay. I found myself not being very hungry at 5:45 for the early dining, because how it is on deck. You eat throughout the day. But it worked out well. It felt like dinner was much more rushed than the later dining, and that's to be expected. They want to get you out and turn over the dining room. And it did feel like in the shows in the evening there were a lot more kids in the shows than what I was used to of going to the earlier show. So that said, I was fine with it. I think everyone didn't know anything different really, but I don't think I would do early dining again, because my kids are old enough that we don't need to eat at 5:45. We can be fine and eat at 8:00.
Yeah, I figured there had to be some back and forth with a group that large of which one everyone preferred.
Yeah. Early on during the planning process, I put a group text out there, and I was like, here's our options. I'm open to whatever, but I will leave it to a group vote. And the majority spoke, and they said they wanted the early dining with the late show. And so that's what we ended up going with.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, let's go ahead and move it to that specialty dining. You had Palo brunch and Palo dinner?
We did, yeah. So we had originally set a group of up to 6, I believe, for Palo brunch. It ended up just being my wife and I that went. No one really wanted to I guess, spend the extra money and do that. But we've experienced it before and we wanted to experience it again because we love Palo brunch. When we got on the ship, we kind of changed up those dining plans. Like I said, where you meet with the head waiter at Palo and make sure you get the reservations. And we had requested a specific server at Palo because my wife and I were on the Dream in September, and we had met an amazing server named Coby, and my name's Coby, and so we had obviously a connection there, and so we had a great connection with him, and we felt like we really enjoyed talking with him, and so we requested him. He was not aware of that, and so when he saw us at Palo Brunch, he like his face lit up. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I just saw you guys. I wrote in my journal about meeting another Coby," and so it was a really cool connection to have him there. And he's like, "I feel like I just want to sit down and enjoy brunch with you." And we were like, "Sit down, take a picture, enjoy some brunch with us." But he was the hardest worker there. He's an amazing server. So if you're ever on the Dream, be sure and ask for Coby. So we had an amazing brunch with him on our first sea day. And then on Castaway Key Day, we had planned a group dinner for the kids who were over 18 and any adults that wanted to join us. And so we had a group of 8 that wanted to join us. And so we were lucky enough to get what do they call it? The Apollo private dining room. We didn't know about this. So it was a big group. They led us back to the Apollo private dining room, which is this huge round table just in this amazing, beautiful room. And Coby was our server. And so he took great care of us that night and had an amazing meal. And obviously, worth the price of admission for Apollo dinner over Pirate Night every day of the week. So we had my son, my wife, my brother and his wife, and their 2 that were older than 18 were able to join us, as well as my mom. So it was just a really fun group where we could talk about the day that we had at Castaway Key and enjoy some amazing food together and be kind of doted on by an amazing server, Coby.
Awesome. Getting that private room at Palo is just like such an elevated experience, and it is so like fun and intimate.
It's crazy. And the acoustics in there, like you could be whispering across the table and just hear each other because it's just like a perfectly round room. And you could have conversations with the people next to you across the table very, very easily. It's an amazing elevated experience.
Well, one more thing to discuss before we move on from dining. Where did your families end up eating for breakfast, lunches, snacks, that sort of thing around the ship?
Oh my gosh. Well, with all these teenagers, eating was the main priority for every single one of them. And so we actually never, at least not to my knowledge, we never did a sit down breakfast except for the final day. There may have been 1 or 2 people that did that, but I didn't hear about that. We'd always just end up in cabanas for the morning. And then typically either cabanas or the on deck food for the lunches. Most of the adults, and myself included, were a fan of Ramon's Cantina. Almost every day we'd have Ramon's Cantina, have one of their great bowls or some tacos or something like that. And then the kids took full advantage of being in their own rooms and ordering room service. And so the room service servers frequented our boys' rooms after 1 a.m. So they were constantly getting some food when they didn't need to. And late night pizza was common amongst the teenagers when they were out with their crew and the crew that they had found at the Vibe and the Edge into the wee hours of the morning. So yeah, it was kind of all over the place. And, we didn't really have meals together other than main dining, but we would eat a lot in small groups, either at cabanas on the pool deck, just bringing them back to our chairs or at the little tables over there on deck. Yes, food was the main priority of the cruise for sure.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned some of the kids clubs. Did you have a diverse enough age group that you had people in every single kids club?
We did. No nursery kids this time, but we had five of them that were Oceaneer Club age. That 3 of them were old enough to check themselves in and out, so they would do that frequently. They'd go to the activities that they'd want to do and then check themselves out and go back to the room and eat candy and watch a movie or whatever. And then we had several, probably 8 8 or 9 in the Edge vibe age. Most of them were 13 plus, and so we could level them up to the vibe, which was what most of them wanted to do. We had one that was kind of in that tween age where she was not quite old enough to go up to the vibe, and that was kind of a bummer for her. So she had to kind of stick in the edge or do stuff with her sister or her family outside of the teen clubs. But they absolutely loved hanging out in those teen clubs. We knew if we couldn't find them, we knew that that's where they were. Was just chilling in the vibe.
Awesome. Well, why don't we go ahead and move on to just some other activities and experiences that you guys did, especially anything that you might have like grouped up for around the ship.
Yeah, there was quite a few things that we did group up for. So during the day, we would always find small groups to do some activities together, whether that was trivia. We did really well at the live Disney Tunes trivia. Came with about 10 of us to that and broke off into 2 different groups. Did pretty well at that. We did a lot of the drawing classes together, which I love doing. Those are really fun. Kind of the other adventures around the ship that they tried to do together. At port in Nassau, I don't usually get off the ship in Nassau. Not a lot of people do, obviously. But I wanted to get a group together just to kind of explore a little bit more. So I got a group of the teenagers and some of the adults together and kind of took them over to the Queen's Staircase. I don't know if you've ever been there before. It's kind of, I wouldn't say a sketchy walk to get there, but it's, not super great. But once you get there, the Queen's Staircase is actually a pretty cool place. Great photo opportunities. Kids loved running up and down the stairs. They were timing themselves to see how fast they could get up and down those 64 stairs. And it was just a nice little break to get off the ship and explore a different culture. And then they wanted to spend some time doing a little shopping in the markets and some of the shops there. But all in all, we were only off the ship for maybe an hour and a half total in Nassau. In the evenings, what we'd like to do is we would get together for games some nights. And so like before dinner, we would, we brought a bunch of games. And so we'd meet in cabanas and just play games as a family. Usually there was, the majority of the family was there. So that was fun to play games together as a family before dinner. And we'd always meet up for every single show, every single night. And so we'd try and get, at least a dozen of us to get there early. And we enjoyed those shows together, even the ones that weren't the main stage Disney performances. We did have an opportunity to see a Mentalist. I think his name was Chris Cox. He was awesome from the UK. Then there was also a premiere at Sea one of the nights where we saw The Devil Wears Prada 2. And so we all got to enjoy that together. Anyone who wanted to. It was mostly just the teenagers and above that wanted to see that one. So yeah, and then in the evenings, the kids would kind of do their own things, either go to the kids clubs or go off on their own with some of the friends that they'd met. And the adults would get a group together and go to the Evolution where they'd do game shows and things like that. One night, my wife and I participated in the Match Your Mate, and we actually won Match Your Mate. And so that was kind of fun. We had a group of family there to help cheer us on and toasted our win with a bottle of Cloud and Blue afterwards. And so that was kind of a fun experience to do that together as a family. I think I may have scarred our son. He was in the audience with us. And so if anyone's ever been to Match Your Mate, the answers can get a little risque, not too bad, but my son did not appreciate us sharing those things on stage. But yeah, no, we tried to do as much as possible to try and be together. And like I said, we just tried to keep those group chats going. So to get a quorum together wherever we could and meet and just enjoy this time together as a family.
Well, you already jumped into what you did in Nassau. Did anyone else get off the ship and do anything different?
No, I don't think so. I think there was, I think a couple more did get off the ship and just kind of explore around the port area, just buy some little trinkets at some of those shops there. But I don't think they went outside of that little shopping area at the port. That was pretty much it for Nassau.
Then let's go ahead and move on to your second stop, Castaway.
Yeah.
What did your group get up to on this day?
Well, we got the teenagers up relatively early. That was always tough to make sure that they get up on time. because I love getting off the ship as soon as it's possible. I just want to make the most of that day at Castaway. And so we were off the ship by about 8:45 in the morning. Walked over. We have a spot that we typically go to in kind of in between the Pelican Plunge slides and the snorkeling lagoon there. We just camped there, made that our home base for the day, and just spent some time doing activities as a family in bigger and smaller groups. We brought a football, so we were playing flies up for the first hour or so. Once we got hot, we went and jumped on in the water and did the Pelican Plunge slides. And then we did some snorkeling around the lagoon with a pretty big group. And then another group went a little bit later. Yeah, and then after lunch, we played some volleyball as a family. We had, I think, about 12 of us that went and played volleyball just on those courts over there, and then just hung out, sat in the water, made some castles, just kind of all just hung out together there at the beach all day. I think the first group went back around 3 o'clock. I like to hang out till the bitter end. I think we were on the ship by about 4:40 when all aboard time was 4:45. So I really just make the most of the day at Castaway Key and just enjoy that place there. I love that last hour when everyone's kind of left and it just gets quiet, and you can just kind of just sit there and bring the chairs into the water and just sit and chill, talking to your spouse and just enjoying the sand and the surf, and truly, truly relaxing there.
I love it. Did you have any other highlights from this cruise as a whole?
Oh gosh, I think just being together was such a highlight. We absolutely loved the evening shows. I think it was a highlight for me just to see my nieces and nephews who had never been on a cruise before or never experienced anything like this before experience it for the first time. So seeing the joy in their faces when Mickey and Minnie came on the stage, and to see them laughing when the genie was performing in Disney Believe. It was just like, I mean, I've seen the show a dozen times, half a dozen times probably. It was more fun for me to see them react to it than anything. But yeah, no, I think the biggest thing was just being there as a family and just being able to create those core memories with cousins and my nieces and nephews and my brothers and sister and their spouses. That was the biggest highlight for me, was just the family time.
Well, sadly, that brings us into your last day, disembarkation. What was everyone's plan for disembarking and heading back home?
Yeah, again, we kind of all had different schedules. Some of us had later flights direct. Some of us were out of Fort Lauderdale. Some of us were out of Miami. So two families actually just rented a car and enjoyed the day in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, just going around, going to different places, and then flew home that night. I had been to Fort Lauderdale before, and therefore I knew that I could get off the ship quickly and get a flight quickly from Fort Lauderdale. We had an early morning breakfast, obviously, because we had first dining. So we were done with breakfast by 7:45. We had our bags packed and ready to go. So we walked off the ship. We were off the ship by 8, and we were at the airport by 8:30 for a 10:15 flight. And that was with me and my brother's family and my mom. We would have been home relatively early in the day, but we got delayed in our layover. But everyone kind of made different travel plans and was home. Some of them made late nights, but it was fairly easy to get an Uber. We had scheduled them ahead, so all of us had Ubers to the airport and just took various flights. It's really easy to get in and out of Fort Lauderdale. Luckily, none of us were on Spirit Airlines, and so none of our flights were canceled. So we were able to make our way home and got back to our house by about 7 Mountain Time last night. And yeah, like I said, there was no chocolate on my pillow, no turn down service, but we were glad to see our dog and make it home.
Awesome. What a fantastic cruise. Luckily, though, our discussion doesn't have to end. I have a couple more questions for you here. What is something that you would do different if you had to plan this cruise again?
Something that I would do different. It would have been much easier to schedule all of our flights in and out at the same time. Just so logistically, we all had the same plans and the same schedule. We did a mix of guaranteed staterooms and then non-guaranteed staterooms, meaning that we chose our stateroom beforehand. As a travel advisor, I probably wouldn't do that next time. We did it to save a little bit of money, make this more affordable for our group. knowing that we may be on different decks, we may be not even close to each other, but luckily enough, we were literally lining the halls of deck 2. The only thing that I would do differently next time for sure was make it a longer cruise. 5 nights is great, but I would say 7 nights is even better.
Never quite long enough, no matter how long it goes.
Exactly.
Well, you had mentioned a few times stopping for photos with your family. Did you utilize the photo package?
That's something we've never actually done. I have a hard time waiting in line to take a photo. And so we never have ever done that. Some of the families stood in line to meet the characters and take pictures with them, but not with the photo package. I like to do a mad scramble at the end of the cruise during the farewell party and just meet as many characters as possible in that last 15 minutes, because like you can meet like 6 characters in like 10 minutes. Whereas you need to be standing in line for 15 minutes each to meet them during the cruise. So I like to spend my time elsewhere, and standing in line for photos is not one thing I do. Everyone's got a phone, a camera in their pocket, and there's always people willing to take your picture around you. So that's what we typically did: is find a good place to take a picture, and then end up just utilizing the kindness of strangers to take pictures.
Did you have any other notable cast interactions you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, I mentioned Coby. That's probably the most prominent one. Our stateroom host was great. He took care of all of our staterooms. Our names are on these staterooms, but I'm going to be sleeping in the stateroom. It's going to be all mixed up. He's like, just great. But, tell us what you need. We had 3 in our room. My daughter, who's 10, and we asked him if he could make up both beds every single night, because we may have a sleepover. Cousins might come and sleep over in our stateroom. My son might come and sleep over if it's too late for him and he doesn't want to hang out with his cousins and brothers till 2 a.m. And he did. And so we had an extra room. And so our stateroom host was awesome. His name was Andika from Thailand. So great. And our serving team was amazing. Nana, our assistant server, and Christian, our main server, top notch. 5 stars across the board. I do have to say the event staff at night, the entertainment staff, they're so fun. Sam from the UK, we were up there in Evolution every single night. He got to know me and my wife, obviously intimately at Match Your Mate. And so every time he would see me afterwards, he would always say, "Hey, it's Coby, not Cody." And I was like, "Yep, that's right. Coby, not Cody." So Sam would always remember us, and the event staff would always remember us. So that was kind of a fun interaction as well.
I love it. We can always take more time to highlight the amazing crew on board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well then, what is next for you and your family?
That is a great question. We came home with kind of some post-vacation blues today, and I was like, what do we got to do next? My wife and I have been looking at some cruises in the Mediterranean this summer. There are some travel agent specials, so we may end up going back on the Dream this summer. Fingers crossed that we can make it work. I don't know if we can, but I did put a placeholder down. I always put a placeholder down, 2 placeholders actually, because there's 6 of us, and so we need 2 rooms. So we will have something within the next year. I just don't know what that is yet. We've got a Disney World trip planned this summer with the family. We're going to do a little East Coast road trip and end up in Orlando. Nothing better than Orlando in August, right, Lake?
Rough time.
It's a rough time to be there, but it's the time that we can make it work. We've got a couple of ideas on the books, but nothing in concrete yet. So we'll have to keep you posted.
Well, Coby, where can our listeners follow you?
Well, I mentioned I kind of do part-time travel advisor work, and I created an Instagram account to kind of follow our travels. It's called Rich Memories Travel on Instagram. I'm not on there a ton, but I do like to post some fun stories over there.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for coming on and sharing you and your very large family's experience on the Disney Dream.
Absolutely.
That is going to bring us to the end of the show. As always, you can follow Christy at Pack Your Pixie Dust and utilize her travel services by clicking the Book with Christy link right below. You can follow myself on Instagram and YouTube at MouseGen, and you can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at DCL Podcast. But that is going to wrap up our show. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. Bye, guys. Well, that's going to wrap up the show. Once again, we want to thank Coby for coming on and sharing his family's adventure on the Disney Dream. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'd also like to thank our Patreons who help make this show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/DCL Podcast. Whether you're boarding a cruise, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Christy, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travels. We'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.